We won't talk about age.
About,
Huh?
We won't talk about
the
age.
why.
Yeah.
And I said, "Put your
Give me a heads up.
And she's like, surprised.
Not many.
Excuse me.
No, it starts at age
There's a handful of us. I'm not.
48.
I used to run a lot more. Tomorrow we're actually doing in the morning.
Seat seems awful low. My seat seems awful low.
It's a law enforcement.
They actually want me wearing
Our
glasses
leg
all
is-
the time.
I got 7.
We meet.
Just when I'm reading, if I'm studying like prints or doing a bid or something where you got your prints out.
Just give her, make sure she's got
Well, it
enough time to get back up here.
Headaches.
I just don't like sitting low.
We only ain't gonna get in 5 tonight.
They have it set up to where it.
2 of them are on a golf trip,
Not like you hand off the torch.
and the other one's on a float trip.
It's covered.
Got the good ones. What are you worried about? We got the ones that count. Harry Hurst all weekend. We have our 5.
There you go. Ready? Okay, here we go.
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, Monday, May 20th, 2024, 7 p.m. Bear,
Here.
Briggs,
Here.
Coulter,
Here.
Heidrich,
Here.
Holtmeyer, Patke,
Here.
Reed, Wessels. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
And to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the council meeting dated May 6th, 2024? Bear,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Heidrich,
Aye.
Patke,
Yes.
Need a motion, guys.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Patke, second by Coulter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approval of the minutes is passed.
approval and adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. You have change order number 1, 2024 Seringer Avenue Shared Use Path Extension Project, liquor license application for Sushi King Washington, Inc., liquor license renewals, and we would like to move item 6A, report of department heads for e-scooters, down underneath ordinances and resolutions.
Okay.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Patke, second by Coulter. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Priority
Consent
items,
agenda. Go ahead.
mayor's presentations, appointments, and reappointments, police department reappointments.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. Good evening, council. So before you have 2 officers up for reappointment. One is Officer Jason Engel. It'll be his second 6-month reappointment. And then Joseph Kaputska, one of our sergeants, 1-year reappointment. And I recommend them both.
Motion.
Motion by Coulter, second by Briggs. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Public hearings, special use permit 414 Cedar Street, short-term rental.
Good evening, council. We have a special use permit for 414 Cedar Street. The zoning is R3, so it does not require a buffer. It is a old commercial building. It's a doctor's office that they were going to turn into multifamily. They didn't get that far, and they are part-time living here and part-time in Florida, so they want to rent out as a short-term rental part of that space. So you can see on Cedar Street, it's got the blue star on there. This is the aerial of the building. You can see the driveway is about 100 foot, so they have plenty of off-street parking. And then this is the front of the house and a side view when it pops up. So, and we do have representatives from their leasing agents, so if they have any if you have any questions, they're here to answer your questions. Okay.
Just, we'll call you up in just a second. Go ahead.
Any questions?
Questions from the council? Discussion?
Public hearing.
And it's a public hearing, folks, so if you would like to come up, please speak into the microphone, state your name and your address, please.
Sorry about that. Hi, my name's Mary Helen Reinerman. I actually live in the house my family moved into in 1964. It's right across the street, one house down, and I'm definitely opposed to that. We already have issues with parking. I love Tilted Skillet and the street festivals. You're gonna have, they're not gonna mean to, you're gonna have issues at night with loud noises after weddings or funerals or class reunions. Besides that, it could affect the issues that you got with the brick house down on Elm Street. No, on 3rd Street, and then on Elm Street, you have Old Dutch Tavern. Up on 5th Street, Tokestarf's old home is a short-term rental. You already have ample short-term rentals and hotels it could take from them. Then also, you're taking housing market off of the rental property. There's already a crisis with the rental property. So, no, I'm definitely opposed to that.
Well, to address the rental, they wouldn't rent long-term since they plan to be here 6 months out of the year at least. So they would continue living in the house part-time.
And if there are issues, then do we go directly to them? I don't want to inundate the police officers with things like that. They have enough to do. Will we contact the owners? Will we contact a person at the city?
And they have a representative from their leasing
They
company?
do? And would that representative them have their phone number available, so if there is issues like after hours? Like if it's-
You could ask them, they are here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you come up to the?
Hold on.
Hold on.
Hold on. Hey, ma'am. Yeah.
I'm done. I've already stated what I needed to state, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Nat Hammond. I'm with Missouri House. I live at 680 Scenic View Drive in Union, Missouri. So one of the things I wanted to mention that to kind of speak to some of the issues is one of the things we do with all of our vacation rentals is we use a device called a Minute device or a sound monitoring device. Doesn't record noise, it only records decibels. We will get an alert if it goes above, let's say, 80 decibels, which is kind of, let's say, light to fair dinner conversation as far as the level of decibels. It also has the ability to pick up smoke, whether it be from cigarettes or marijuana smoke. Obviously, that wouldn't be an issue for neighbors and be smoking inside, but it also monitors the amount of devices that are in the home. So if you have a lot of people and they have, let's say, there's 14 people there and there's 30 cell phone devices, we're obviously going to know about that. There is ample off-street parking. And unlike most of the other lodging options within downtown Washington, actually, I don't think there's any, this one has appeals to people with mobility issues. It has a wheelchair ramp. It has a special bathroom, actually 2 of them, I think, for people who have mobility issues. This is something that is greatly needed in Washington for lodging. So this is going to help families out that are coming to the area that people might be wheelchair bound. There's not a lot of lodging options for that, where people can come and congregate in their home or in the home, share a meal, play games, spend time with family. That's pretty much all I can give you. Any questions?
The lady mentioned about a phone number to reach someone. It's not supposed, is that posted or is that somewhere where they can, how is that addressed if there is an issue?
If there's an issue, well, first of all, if there's going to be any noise issues, we're going to know about it because we're going to get an alert before any of these guys get it. You know, if there's, you know, again, if it goes above, I think it was at 86 decibels, roughly. Between 80 and 90 decibels, we're going to get an alert, and then we're going to text the guest, warn them that they need to bring it down. If it doesn't go away after 10 minutes, we're probably going to show up, let them know they need to bring it down, and they're going to have to vacate the premises. Fortunately, we've only had 2 incidences in the entire area since we started doing this, and one of them was a couple in Marthasville, so after a wedding.
And that just reads inside the house?
I'm sorry?
And that just reads inside the house?
It just reads, yeah, it reads
So
noise.
It does not do anything outside?
It can, and we probably will put one out there too. So what happens is if you have people outside and they're loud, obnoxious, we're going to get notifications for that. We do have that at another house in downtown Washington. So if we get noise above 86 decibels at, let's say, 11 o'clock at night, we're going to get an alert on it, and then we're going to contact them. So,
Kind of self-policing in that matter.
I'm sorry?
Self-policing for that matter, for a lot of that. I didn't realize you guys had those kind of monitoring systems.
I wanted to actually mention that before in previous situations where I've come, but it is something, I've done presentations on it, but the latest technology, and there's multiple companies that do it, and we'd have to put that in our listing, but what they do is they monitor like sound levels, and and the latest thing is that it will also monitor smoke and marijuana smoke, and outside it's not as big of a deal, and it's okay if people do that. It's Missouri. We can't restrict that, but at least we can protect the home itself. And but I think the nice thing is it monitors sound, and it also monitors the amount of devices that we can tell how many people are in the house. So we'll get a list. It's like we'll know the TVs, we'll know the the thermostat, things like that. But when we start getting cell phones, and then let's say there's 30 unrecognizable cell phones, and you're only supposed to have 5 people in there, we're going to know something's going on.
Sure.
Other questions?
Oh, the phone number. They can certainly look us up online. I'm certainly going to pass one of my cards around to some of the people that might have any questions. We certainly want to, make friends of the neighbors rather than, keep them at odds. Because the thing is, at some point, one of their family members might want to come in town and stay there, especially if it's somebody that's like a grandmother that can't get up the stairs. It's going to be a perfect opportunity for them to come and visit with family, but have their own space.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Other comments from the audience? Okay. Take a motion to accept it into the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept it in minutes.
Second.
Motion by Briggs, second by Petke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. It's in the minutes.
An ordinance granting a special use permit to utilize 414 Cedar Street as a short-term rental in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Briggs.
Introduced by Briggs. Any further? All right, go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance granting a special use permit to utilize 414 Cedar Street as a short-term rental in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Heydrich,
Aye.
Petke,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Thayer,
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, special use permit for 414 is approved.
Review of code changes, Chapter 420, Stormwater Management Standards.
Good evening, council. So before you is Section 420 Stormwater Management Code revisions. This comes as a result of DNR's audit that they did, finding noncompliance with our MS4 regulations. So the 3 main areas that we changed were addressing illicit discharge, construction site runoff, and post-construction stormwater management systems, which those post-construction stormwater management systems are, it's not just covering flood control anymore, now it's covering water quality as well with that. And then the construction site runoff we're handling through the grading permit, adding extra regulations, really spelling out what the grading permit is and the SWIP inspections that the contractor and developers will have to do. And then illicit discharge covers what's an illicit discharge, and then all of these have enhanced enforcement regulations and steps that would be taken if not followed. So, questions?
You want to mention how this affects our MS4?
Yeah, so our MS4, so they found us, DNR found us not in compliance of these areas, so this helps bring us into some of the compliance. There's a lot of other stuff we need to do with our MS4 as far as like public outreach and different things, and then enforcing these codes is a big part of that as well. But DNR reviewed these. They're good with all the code changes. This was reviewed at our stormwater committee, and we have a couple different people involved, council members, that all review these changes as well.
And a couple developers as well are on board
Yep.
on the thing.
Yep.
So, so my question was just how much of an additional restraint is it to a developer on just the normal everyday, you know,
I think,
water runoff?
you know, the construction runoff, they should be addressing that already. So
Right.
it's really just putting enforcements in place and stuff on our end for regulating that. The biggest thing they'll see is the post-construction water quality side of this. They'll have to treat the whole sites. You know, the first, it's not all the water, but it's in there. It's like the 90% rainfall discharges have to be treated for water quality and run through a different stormwater management system, not just a basin. So there'll be some additional costs with that,
Okay.
for sure.
Other questions, guys? Take a motion to accept it in the minutes,
It's a
please.
public hearing.
Public hearing, sorry. Would anyone like to comment on our stormwater regs revision? Okay,
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to accept in the minutes.
motion by Patke,
Second.
second by Briggs. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And go ahead, Sherry, with D, please.
An ordinance repealing Chapter 420 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri, and enacting in lieu thereof a new Chapter 420.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke. Any further discussion? Go ahead.
An ordinance repealing Chapter 420 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri, and enacting in lieu thereof a new Chapter 420. Hydrich,
Aye.
Patke,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, the ordinance,
3D.
pardon me, 3D, thank you, is passed.
Review of code changes 425 fire hydrants and connections.
So these code revisions are mostly to reflect the international fire codes that were adopted back in January 1st of this year. So one of the big ones is for commercial developments right now, you have to have so many hydrants within 300 feet, 500 feet, 1,000 feet of the development. The International Fire Code is based on fire flow, so this code references the International Fire Code and following those regulations. We also addressed some of the other changes in the International Fire Code, which had to do with the fire lanes, the widths, striping, signs, that sort of thing, and then cleaned up some other verbiage in the code there. So.
No questions, you guys?
Good.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Would anyone like to comment on our fire hydrants and connections code changes? Okay,
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to accept in the minutes.
motion by Patke, second by Coulter to accept. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance amending sections 425.010, 425.014, 425.020, and 435.000 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke. No further questions or comments? Go ahead.
An ordinance amending sections 425.010, 425.015, 425.020, and 435.000 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Hydrich,
Aye.
Patke,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance, or pardon me, yes, ordinance 3F passes.
Citizens' comments?
Okay.
Not on the agenda.
Anything not on the agenda that citizens would like to comment on, please? Okay, thank you.
You got one back.
One?
Hi, my name's Doug Maycamp. I live at 112 Country Ridge Lane in Washington, Missouri. We are part of a group of people that live on Mueller Lane. And regarding the East-West Parkway, I know there was a vote by the Planning and Zoning last week and it passed. My concern is you're going through some very nice properties and disrupting a lot of families, and I'm not sure it's the right thing to do. I think there's better places these roads could be established, and I also think that some of this commercial development should be going more east, because this East-West Parkway seems to be a route that you're trying to take the commercial development around the city and return it back to the east to the interstate. And I was just kind of wanting some comments back from the city council of how these things are developed and why it continues to go west and not east.
Okay.
I'd like to go ahead and comment. We do have this on the agenda. And this is like the last, there is this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a resolution that's on here later, so
Okay.
if we wanted to, we could go ahead and have some comments at that time and try to address those things.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other citizens' comments that are not on the agenda? Go ahead.
Going over the regulations for noise
I'm sorry, can you state your name and address, please?
Sorry. My name is Jesse Turner. My address is 601 West 5th Street, Washington, Missouri. Ordinance 215.075 for noise regulations is very vague. It does not have any specific decimals or anything like that. So any complaint would be valid, and I find it very unenforceable. And so I would like to go for the process to actually amend the noise regulation to have a set decimal reading.
Okay. Jim? Would you mind commenting on?
Sure. Actually, that has been addressed. We addressed that, the council addressed that, how long ago now? 2 years?
2 years at
Something
least,
like that?
probably. Last year or so.
And there's a decibel amount, so it's in code. It's not in it's in a different ordinance. It's under, I think where it's located.
Nuisance.
Mark could probably find it quicker than I can.
I'm certain.
I know he's searching right now.
Did we do it under nuisance? That it was,
I believe it's in the zoning code. It's not in the,
Under Chapter 215 nuisances, noise regulations, it says any excessive, unnecessary, or unusually loud noise, or any noise which either annoys, disturbs, injures, or et cetera. So just anything annoying to anybody would technically be a valid noise complaint in the system.
Yeah, it does get in greater detail in another section of the
Another
ordinance,
section?
Jesse, yes.
Okay.
And that's what I think Mark's trying to go ahead and look up for you.
But that's all for that, just came to my attention.
Thank you.
did you find it?
Yes, it's under Performance Standards, Section 400.195. And it would be item C. And that was in April 2023.
We can send you a copy of that if you don't.
Anyone else?
This gentleman brought up an interesting topic. What is the decibel level, and what's the curfew for it? So we can have it as more common knowledge.
It gets pretty
So-
detailed, but you,
Right.
go ahead.
Between the hours of 9 PM and 6 AM, and then it depends on the zoning that it occurs. Residential, 65 decibels, commercial's 80, industrial's 80.
Oh, wow. That's actually kind of low because, like I mentioned before, 86 is like light dinner conversation. So, and is that for just the weekdays or the weekends?
Every
I would
day.
say
Every day?
I did not see a day designation.
Surprised they don't have that increase for the weekends, considering there's a lot of events that take place downtown.
That's why you've got the higher decibel downtown, and it has to be how close it is to a residentially zoned area as well, too.
Those
Just-
readings are taken from the edge of the property as well, right?
That's right. That's correct. Correct.
Right.
So it's not up at the house, it's,
Yeah, those measurements are taken from the edge of the, I guess, would be reporting party or complainant's property.
Oh, okay. All right.
It doesn't apply to the festival districts.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay, other citizens' comments? Okay. Go ahead, Sherry.
Ordinances and resolutions, an ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a supplemental agreement number 1 with Civil Design, Inc. for the Washington Terrace and Pottery Road connection.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
All right, council, this is the supplemental agreement for CDI to change up the design for the intersection of Don Avenue where it meets Old Pottery and Pottery Road. So currently, they have a design at Old Pottery that is a four-way intersection, and it's right at the minimum for stopping sight distance. So this change, which it's limited because of the property owner to the south driveway, and how steep you can make that grade. So the plan is to cut off Old Pottery right there at their driveway, make it a three-way intersection, and then we can lower the whole intersection and improve the stopping sight distance, make it a much safer intersection. So that's kind of what this redesign is for, so that we don't have problems in the future with that intersection.
So if it was a four-way and it's gonna be a three-way, what are we cutting off? Or what-
Those first two houses, as you come off Old Pottery
Right.
now, will have their own driveway there, and then the rest will come off Pottery at the new intersection.
So their driveway would be a dead end.
Yeah, exactly. And they actually prefer that, talking to the resident.
Okay.
Didn't you say there would be some cost savings?
Yeah, and there should be some cost savings with not having to go back as far on that leg of Pottery. So you should be able to see that reflected later in construction.
Seems like a better plan all the way around, so thanks.
I agree. Other questions or comments, guys? Okay. Go ahead, Sheriff.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a supplemental agreement number 1 with Civil Design, Inc. for the Washington Terrace and Pottery Road connection. Hydrich.
Aye.
Patke. Briggs.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 7A passes. 7B, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a mutual aid box alarm system master agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, and the units of federal, state, and local government and other non-governmental emergency response organizations subscribed thereto.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
Good evening, good evening, council. Before you is a letter and an ordinance for a mutual aid agreement with basically the state of Illinois. Right now, there is an imaginary wall at the Mississippi River. We cannot get resources from, nor can we send resources over technically. There's been a lot of work done between the St. Louis Regional Mutual Aid System and the MABUS system, the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System in Illinois, and to basically close that gap and allow us to send resources. We had a tanker on standby to go over a year and a half ago, and there's also resources over there that we could definitely utilize in major disasters, and our rescue teams are actually cross-staffed with the same equipment, so it only makes sense. No cost.
Comments, questions? Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Other discussion? Go ahead.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a mutual aid box alarm system master agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, and the units of federal, state, and local government and other non-governmental emergency response organizations subscribed thereto. Hydrich.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Coulter.
Yep.
By your vote, ordinance 7B passes. C, please.
An ordinance amending the 2023-2024 budget of the City of Washington, Missouri for the purchase of a Charlie Cart Project mobile kitchen and tools for the Washington Public Library.
Hi, Nelson.
Hi, Doug. Good evening.
I need somebody to introduce.
Briggs.
Introduced by Briggs.
Go ahead, Nelson.
All right, the Charlie Cart is a mobile cart designed specifically for libraries to do presentation around programming. We'd like to get this Charlie Cart and start using it at the library for food programming, inviting in local agencies to help us with food programming. You use some of it ourselves, and also use it at the Missouri Book Festival when we do the big food programming out here in the parking lot. We'll do a couple of those here at the Missouri Book Festival this September. And it needs to be in the budget because it's divided to 3 payments. The first payment would come $4,500 would be this year. And then the next fiscal year, there'd be 2 payments of $4,500 for a total of $9,000 in the new fiscal year. So there'd be a little outlay this year of money that we paid back next year. The entire $15,000 is covered in the grant from the state of Missouri, as well as the $1,500 that Friends of the Library have offered to cover the rest of it.
How big is this thing?
It's gonna be probably, I think it's about here to here. We measured it, and it fits right into the little side room in the library. It'll kind of just slide right in there, and we'll be able to store it in there.
We're gonna cook on it?
Pardon?
We're gonna cook on this thing, is it?
Yeah, yeah, you can cook on it. There's a microwave, there's gonna be.
Trying to figure out what we got going here.
Oh yeah, it'll be microwave, and they're in it, built in with it. It's got a stove on it. It's actually got an oven there. It's all built into it, so you can do little cooking shows. We've been moving towards cooking, and it's a theme in libraries nationally to move towards more cooking programs. If you go to Mid-Continent Library, they built an entire cooking center just exclusively devoted to cooking at one of their branches they built in the last couple of years.
And this is to provide food or to show people how to cook?
Show people how to cook. Yeah, in the library world, they call it food literacy. The specific grant that the state of Missouri provides, this was one of the purposes of it, was to provide money for libraries for food literacy, where they can start working towards, healthy eating habits.
So I guess my question is, if it has cooking ability, then we have to have health department regulations if we're gonna
Or power,
serve the food?
or fuel, inside, outside.
Right.
All new to us, I'm sorry, we're just
Yeah, I
trying
don't,
to figure out
this
what we're
was
doing.
all very intriguing,
Yeah,
Me too, so.
we can do it inside, we can do it outside, we can do it either way, because it's a mobile cart, so we can actually take it outside if we want. There'll be a little cooking, we're not gonna fry like steaks on it and have smoke drifting all over the place, but we can do some basic, grilled cheese sandwiches, cooking for kids, basic cooking for adults.
And we don't
Scenic-
need additional fire suppression, or we don't need additional hood or anything like that to do this? I guess there's a lot of questions I guess I have.
There's fire suppression, yeah, we can refer to that to the chief. Scenic Regional has one of these already, and they're using it in their branches around there too, so we'll have to coordinate with health.
Nelson, is this gas or electric?
Electric, not gas, yeah. It's portable, so we're not hooking up the gas, it is all electric.
The hood is dependent on what's being cooked. So if there's grease-laden vapors, that was the requirement for hood venting and fire protection. So it's a health code issue, mechanical code issue, as well as fire code. So potentially, depends on what they're cooking. Boiling water, no problem, but grease-laden vapors, then there's an issue. That would have to be looked at from a code compliance standpoint.
Don't get me wrong, I love having a grant to pay for something to teach folks, but it seems like there's a lot more tied to this, because then I start asking who's supplying what we're cooking. Is it gonna be a recurring cost that we're not seeing right here? So that's, I guess, why I'm asking questions, because if it's just electric, there's a lot of different versions there that can cost a lot of money to run a 220 circuit in there, or whatever you're gonna need, and what are you gonna cook, to Tim's point, so.
Yeah, we're not envisioning this being used every day, so it'll be used periodically for programs. It'll cost, a little money for the electricity. I don't anticipate that being an extraordinary amount.
I meant the installation of what are we hooking up? That's where more of the cost worry for me would be.
Well, these are designed.
We know what we're really spending here.
Yeah, these are designed really, we shouldn't need anything else. It's designed just to be hooked up to an ordinary socket, right? That these are made and they're sold in libraries around the nation. There's thousands of these out there.
More like a cooktop. It's gonna be a 110 plug-in.
Yeah,
These are the
it's
details that.
This is not a
Right, is it
commercial
grill?
grade kitchen that we're getting. It's going to be a household grade kitchen designed for the teaching of cooking skills and good eating skills. And we found that as we've done some cooking programs and basic programs, we're getting great attendance for those, and there's a big demand out there for it that near as we can tell.
Also, and I think what Councilman Bear was asking also, maybe not, so who is supplying the material to make these meals and stuff like that.
The food.
Right, right.
For supplying the food, our envision is the Friends of the Library, is that they will be helping us to support additional materials for this, like the food.
So
and
we're
the
hoping, or we
materials.
know for sure?
No, they will. They will provide. I've asked them about this already in the Friends of the Library meeting, said this is what I was doing, and that I would like their support, and they indicated yes.
And you say this is happening around the state, around the country? I haven't heard of this, so this is new to me to know that that's.
Yes, around the state, around the country, these Charlie carts, part of what they do is they're supplying them to libraries around the country, so they do Zoom programs for health and for cooking, and they have an entire program that goes with it to help you, to help libraries, small and large. So they're trying to get the smaller, maybe single branch libraries like us in addition to some of the larger branches. But yeah, this is a trend nationally where libraries are moving into the food literacy.
So who runs the program? Is there a nutritionist, or does this come with some training, or?
It comes with training, so we'll have a couple of staff members, including me, who can run programs. We can also go to the Missouri Extensions. One of our former shelvers works for there, and she comes out and she does health food in the area. Franklin County is part of her territory, but if she leaves, somebody else will come in and be part of that. So we'd invite them to come in. You can also invite local chefs to come in too and do little demonstrations too. And some of it will be non-complicated cooking, maybe, cooking for kids, right, which is how do you make a grilled cheese sandwich and real basics like that.
So these are gonna be scheduled classes?
Yeah, they'll be scheduled.
I mean, not just, I can't just go in there and
Order a
throw-
grilled cheese.
Right.
No, you can't.
Right.
Sorry.
Can't have a hamburger. you need a-
No, you're
Yeah,
not.
it's not an open kitchen. It'll be locked away in the back closet when we're not using it, and we'll just bring it out when we're going to have
Books and a
an
grilled
official
cheese.
program.
Right, to go.
That, I mean, and you laugh, but that's kind of my question. I didn't know this fit with the library. I thought this fit with something else around. I didn't think we would put a hot plate on a cart in the library. That's why my questions are coming here. I'd still just, I mean, good for you, Nelson, looking into it, or everyone else has it. I just can't vision this. People come into a cooking class to the library. I guess that was for something else, the senior center, or, somewhere else for that matter, for, food systems.
Yeah, as I said, we've done a couple chocolate making classes, cooking classes, and those filled up right away. Yeah, and we did our plate for serving hors d'oeuvres with cheeses. We've done that program twice, and that just fills up within a couple days. I mean, these are, once we start running these, especially the adult ones, I think they'll fill up right away.
Nelson,
That's been our experience with
Just
this so
looked at
far.
it too.
Yes.
I just Googled it. You might want to Google it and put it up on the screen for them.
convention oven, induction cooktop, stainless steel sink with spray nozzle, pump, gray water recovery, storage, power and electric system optimized for classroom use.
One on the screen.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Can you do that? Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we don't want to look at that right now. So what am I looking up, Charlie? The Charlie Cart project?
Yeah, just Google the Charlie Cart Project.
That'll work. It's charliecart.org.
I can't be an Alcart.
We've all done that. It's hard. I didn't know what it was either.
There you go.
It's cheating.
Is there a video or anything that I could pull up?
I'd hit the about at the top. Thank you. Click on that.
Oh, that's a lot of locations.
Get all the Charlie cards.
Yeah, one of my concerns was, well, it's been around a while, since 2015, and I went out to do a training just to see how it was, and we had about 80 to 90 people on the Zoom training from around the country, so it meant that they were providing excellent support.
Oh,
There you go.
Yeah, now you found the pictures, now you can kind of see what it looks like.
doesn't have a, Nope, page not found. Sorry. Ignore that one.
Charlie's pretty elusive.
Yeah. He's busy moving around. Okay.
Durable rolling kitchen cart.
You want to watch the video?
No.
Why not?
How long is it?
Couple, I mean, I can stop it whenever we're done.
6 minutes.
3 hours.
It looks like it's 6 minutes, yeah.
So the Charlie Cart project got started in 2014. I had been working already for about 10 years in food education. And in that time, I had observed some troubling trends.
Okay, here we go.
Go ahead. Storage cupboards for all utensils, power, and electrical system optimized for classroom.
I'm trying to make sure we're capturing all the costs, is all I'm asking here.
The Charlie Cart project is a
looks like
revolutionary
it's a bunch of
quest to
110
design and
plug-in
build a
things.
kitchen for every classroom.
Yeah, it's not rewiring the library and putting in a heating.
This is Carolyn
putting in
Fetterman.
vents and
For
all that
nearly
type of
15
stuff.
years, she's been helping
Caught me
build
off guard a
garden
little bit without knowing
programs
this.
with the Edible Schoolyard Project and
Only thing you might
teaching
have found
kids
is a
to
temporary
cook.
water line or something.
Maya wants to do
It's self-contained.
There's a self-contained water that we can
It's
fill.
got a convection oven and induction cooktop.
and plastic bins and whatever we can
Stainless
get
steel
our hands
sink with
on.
spray nozzle
And I
pump
started
and gray water
thinking there
recovery.
must be an easier way.
Storage
This is
cupboards for all
Brian
utensils,
Doherty.
pots, pans,
He's the
dishes, and
founder of
lesson
Salary
plans.
Design.
Power and electrical system optimized for
This
classroom
amazing
use.
goal to try to give a
1 year
whole
fit and finish
generation of
warranty.
kids direct experience with healthy food.
And correct me if I'm
So
wrong,
the
they also
designer
coach
and the educator
state's
and an incredible team of
LSTA
experts
grant program,
got to
so
work.
therefore,
They
this is being
developed
paid
a
for,
plan that's
13,500
comprehensive
being
and
paid for the grant,
scalable,
1,500
and built
friends.
relationships with partner
No cost
organizations.
here to taxpayers, no cost to have
They
this
designed
thing,
a
correct?
mobile kitchen
That's right, no cost to the
specifically for food
taxpayers. Friends of the
educators
library
and
have agreed to
developed
help
a curriculum
fund
with a
us
set of
for the
54
programming.
lesson plans
They
with
mean, they
requirements
sponsor a lot of our
Common Core
programming
standards.
anyway, so this
We
would be like a
pilot
Friends of the
tested
Library
program
sponsored
in
program.
schools across California
Just like our
with
author
beaver
programs where the
friends,
Friends of the
now we're
Library
rolling
pay
out
money for,
nationwide.
they offer honorariums for authors to come in
This is a
and go ahead and do
grassroots
presentations.
effort.
It doesn't
You
cost the
care about
taxpayers
young
anything when we
people
do it that
get
way,
involved
because they're
today.
fundraising for their own money. And this would be a similar model.
How many programs do you anticipate a week, Nelson, on the, utilizing this?
Usually utilizing this, I'd anticipate, it's possible we could do some weekly programs, like maybe during the summer. I wouldn't anticipate a weekly year-round, like maybe more like monthly programs.
Once a week.
And then once we hit in a busy season like the summer, where we'd start doing, say, we're going to do a program series for kids or adults, whatever, and we're going to maybe do 2 or 3 or 4 in a row, and then, but it won't be weekly year-round.
Well, I came in here with a lot of questions. Obviously, I've asked a lot of them. If it's 110 and it's not taken up anymore, we're not rewiring the library, to Councilman Bear's point, we're not buying food for everybody. It's something that's happening on a grant. I can back it now, but I did have a lot of questions coming in, so thank you for at least explaining.
Yeah, and sometimes we do, if we provide a program for somebody who comes in, the library has spent money on food, just the basic supplies for chocolate making, for instance. They didn't, when they come in and do a chocolate program and they have $100 worth of ingredients that they need in order for us to run that cooking program, we do offer honorariums to cover stuff. So that's just normal business. But in this case, Friends of the Library would be our sponsor.
So it's a no cost for these classes then? If somebody signs up for the class, it's no cost to them?
Right, exactly. As a library, we're committed to keeping things zero cost. And outside of a few exceptions, everything we do is free to the community so that everyone can come, no matter their income level.
Further discussion?
I think we killed it.
I think we killed it, right.
All right. Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance amending the 2023-2024 budget of the City of Washington, Missouri for the purchase of a Charlie Cart Project mobile kitchen and tools for the Washington Public Library. Hydrich?
Aye.
Patke,
We'll give it a try. Aye.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Your vote, ordinance 7C passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
D, please.
An ordinance accepting the bid from Affordable Systems Furniture for a reception desk in the Public Works Building.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
Evening, Council. The Public Works Office renovation project's slowly winding down. The reception desk, sorry about the picture's not the greatest, but the reception desk is one of the last things remaining in the project, along with the fire alarm, which we'll hear about next. So this desk was bid out by Egan Design Build. They had 2 bidders. The low bid came in at $6,000. Desk would be shipped to a warehouse in Troy, and then a company would come in and assemble it, get it all put together in place there, like you see in the picture. And this would be the front desk when you enter the front door that Pam sits at. So it's replacing that big, ugly pink desk that was there since 1990.
Questions, discussion? Okay, thanks, Wayne.
An ordinance accepting the bid from Affordable Systems Furniture for a reception desk in the Public Works Building. Hydrich,
Aye.
Patke,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Coulter.
By your vote, ordinance 7D passes. E, please.
An ordinance accepting the proposal from Reinhold Electric, Inc. for a new fire alarm system in the Public Works Building.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
Sorry. Yes, so fire alarm, as we started the project for Public Works, when we first started it and started digging into all the parts and pieces, we were made aware that the current fire alarm system didn't work at all, or somewhat worked. And so the committee met, and it was decided that we should, while there construction companies are in there tearing up the ceiling and whatnot, get in there and replace the fire alarm at the same time. And so that was bid out, had 3 bidders. Reinhold Electric came in at 16.8, and then 2 other ones that were much higher. From what I understand, Tim did a lot of work on the design and specs of this. Fire Chief Frankenberg did a lot of work designing this and going through the specs with the companies. And you may ask why there's such a price difference between 2 of the companies versus the lowest one. And Chief, I'll let you kind of take over from there.
Good evening. Yeah, the fire alarm system there was original to the building, so it was at or near or over 30 years old. A typical fire alarm, commercial fire alarm panel has a life of 10 to 15 years, so you got your money's worth out of this one. It was starting to have failures, which was driving staff crazy, because every time there's a communication failure, they're getting a phone call all day, all night. And so there was definitely it's dying, basically. The electronics have lived their life. So when we went to look at it, the estimate was about $15,000 is where we thought we would be at on something like this. The spec, in all honesty, we had a lot of work to go through the spec and then re-go through the spec a couple of times because we were having troubles getting it where it needed to be. So once the spec went out, the bidders came in. The spec had some lack of clarification, basically. So part of it was rewiring everything and demoing a bunch of equipment out, and that was not the intent of the spec. And so the bidders were bidding it at the worst case, where Reinhold actually came in and started seeking clarification on what was actually desired. And so their bid was much, much better because of that. The equipment they're putting in actually exceeds the spec from what we were requesting, what we were asking for. They're able to exceed the spec with the equipment, and the equipment is actually made in Springfield, Missouri. So that was another bonus that I was not anticipating, but they are putting in some state equipment anyway. It's built in the state of Missouri. So I would highly recommend this system in this building. It's due, and it's not the first type of the system. Reinhold is actually subbing with ABF. ABF is the one that put all the communicators in all of the city buildings already, so we have experience with them as a vendor.
Questions?
Thanks for explaining that. That was my question too, is why it was so much lower. was a little concerned about that, honestly.
That building has way more detection than it needs. I'm blown away by how much is in there. And so part of this bid is cleaning up a bunch of the false alarm causers, basically. But there's still, all of the bays have heat detection. Well, there's already heat detection with sprinklers in them, so it's redundant. But when you start looking at the cost to get a lift and demo all that out, and technically those detectors have another 20 years on them before you have to replace them by code. So for the cost, it wasn't worth the aggravation at this point. So we decided to leave them because they're really no harm. They're not going to false like smoke detectors will.
Thank you.
I appreciate Chief's, all his help with this, because fire alarms are kind of out of my jurisdiction. And it was quite a project too, so.
Okay. Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance accepting the proposal from Reinhold Electric, Inc. for a new fire alarm system in the Public Works Building. Hydrich.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Coulter.
By your vote, ordinance 7E passes.
I will throw this out there too. I think in the near future, like in the next couple of years, we're gonna have to look at the fire alarm here, and I think there's another building too, maybe wastewater. Because they're all.
Yeah, headquarters is 30 years, 31 years this year. This building's about the same vintage. Wastewater treatment, we're actually looking at possibly pulling that one out. There's no code requirement. That was one of the things on the Public Works building, is bringing it to code compliance rather than, it was way exceeding the code and not providing any value with that. So the same issue with the wastewater treatment plant. It's been a nuisance of a system, and we're not even sure it's required. So we're doing a little digging in there. So it's not required there. And then Fire Station 3 and 4, those buildings are approaching 30 years as well. So it's, at some point, we're gonna have to do a number of alarm system upgrades at some point in time. And truthfully, Parks Department should have some sort of detection out their facility as well with the assets that are stored in there. And Public Safety probably needs one before too long. They have a very proprietary, very expensive to maintain system. So at some point, it would make sense to swap that one out as well. That one will be a little less expensive than the others.
Thanks for the heads up, Tim. Okay, 7F, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington, Missouri to enter into a contract with SCE, Inc. for the construction of a new main stage roof at the Washington Fairgrounds.
Bear.
Introduced by Bear.
So as you'll recall, at the last council meeting on May the 6th, we advised you of the bids that we received on April 25th. The apparent low bid was $1,061,045.80. That also included the steel rigging plates of $11,900. That's included in that dollar amount. So the real question I think that the council had at that time after our last meeting was, how do we pay for the remainder of the project? And so what's being proposed to you is we received word from the chamber that they would pick up the remaining balance that was left in order to go ahead and fund the contract in whole. So the contract would be funded by the Capital Improvement Sales Tax Fund in the amount of $702,000 to $702,206.25. And then we'd also utilize the $52,629.72 from our lease agreement with the chamber on the proceeds that we received back from the fair, which leaves you the remaining $306,209.83 that would be funded by the chamber. So you have the funding in place to go ahead and approve the contract.
I think it goes without saying, a big thank you to the chamber stepping up. I know they got their group together a little early so we could try to keep things moving, and this isn't our first time to get this moving, so very much appreciative of that.
Yeah, as I maybe mentioned ahead of time a couple weeks ago, but again, thanks to the chamber and it coming to the table and something that we can do it jointly and make sense of this project. Something that I think it's going to be a great addition, but the chamber realizing that they utilize it for the fair more and stepping up, so a great partnership, and none, to say the least.
I agree. Sherry, let's vote.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington, Missouri to enter into a contract with SCE, Inc. for the construction of a new main stage roof at the Washington Fairgrounds. Hydrich,
Aye.
Patke,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 7F passes. Sure.
You got to keep it really short.
You got it.
When does that ever happen?
That's what I said.
I'll talk to you later.
Oh, I know you will.
I only have two things I want to say. One, thank you for the contract. I appreciate it. I appreciate the trust you guys put in us. We're going to do a good job for you, just as we always have. The second thing is, I want to commend you guys for doing the hard work of being able to come up with a project and fund it. It doesn't matter whether you got it from the chamber or you robbed somebody's piggy bank. The problem in today's world is we all face huge accelerated pricing all across the board, and I constantly, along with other contractors, bid jobs. And we're low bid, and we don't get paid for our bids. We get paid for jobs that don't become jobs because there's not funding there. Most of you know that this is the second time I bid this job and the second time that I was low bid. Nobody pays us for that effort. It's a huge amount of effort, but I want you to know that the community that I live in, the world of contractors, is pretty small. And all of us understand when somebody does the hard work that you guys did and got this job awarded, it makes us want to come back and bid more with you guys and be aggressive and give you good numbers and good prices. And that's how you get that, is you earn the trust and respect of the people in the industry by doing your job. So I'm just commending you for doing the hard work and getting it done. And as a result of that, I think that in the future, that will benefit you because contractors will want to work for the city of Washington, where there's a really big city in our area and several counties that nobody wants to work for because of that. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. That's Washington. Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the city of Washington, Missouri to enter into an agreement with the Washington School District for 3 school resource officers to be assigned to duty for the Washington School District.
Bear.
Introduced by Bear.
Okay, before you have the annual agreement and ordinance with the School District of Washington for providing 3 school resource officers. And essentially, the agreement's the same as years past, other than there is an increase of $4,620 over last year due to the 3% cost of living increase for employees in the previous year. So,
Chief, a great program, and the
absolutely.
officers, you see them in a lot of events. They do a great job. And amazing, those officers truly like what they do, too. Those
They do.
guys will tell you they like being there. I spoke with the guy at Borgia last week, was at a couple of events, graduation, things like that. They really take it to heart. So
They do.
a great program we have. So
I would agree. Thanks.
You want to let them know that when the private school,
Yeah, that should be cut. Their fiscal years, I believe, January to January, so probably sometime in the fall, you'll receive the agreement for the parochial school contract.
Not only do they keep our schools safe, you guys, they set a fine example for the kids to follow. So. Other discussion? Let's vote, guys.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the city of Washington, Missouri to enter into an agreement with the Washington School District for 3 school resource officers to be assigned to duty for the Washington School District. Hydrich.
Aye.
Patke,
yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 7G passes. H, please.
An ordinance authorizing a First Amendment to Performance Agreement in connection with the taxable industrial revenue bonds WAG Transformers USA LLC Project Series 2024.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
okay, you need this amendment to be approved by you due to the fact, if you look at the letter that I provided you, in 2021, the city issued taxable industrial revenue bonds to facilitate partial real and personal property tax abatement for WAG. For whatever reasons, the company never made those transfers occur, and because the law requires the city to hold title to the property during the abatement period, WEG received no abatement in years 2022 and 2023. This First Amendment to the performance agreement allows that property transfer to occur in 2024 for the partial tax abatement to also begin in 2024. So it's just an amendment because they didn't follow the agreement and turn over the assets for public title, if you will.
And in retrospect, they didn't get tax abatement.
That's
for those 2
exactly,
years.
that's right.
Right.
So,
Wasn't good for them.
Right. Their mistake, but they lost out, right.
correct.
No further discussion. Go ahead.
An ordinance authorizing a First Amendment to performance agreement in connection with the taxable industrial revenue bonds, WEG Transformers USA LLC project, Series 2024. Hydrich.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 7H passes. Aye, please.
An ordinance approving a boundary adjustment for J.F. Cruel's subdivision Plat 2 in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Bear.
Introduced by Bear.
All right, this is a boundary adjustment at 716 West Main Street. The property, well, there's 2 lots, and the property owner owns both lots. It's zoned R2 overlay. They are requesting that the property line in between the 2 lots is removed so that they can build a accessory structure attached to their home. Currently, if they built a garage on Lot A, as you see, it would be against the code because there's no main building on that lot.
So they're just gonna make it one lot.
We're just going to make it one large lot.
One large lot.
Eliminate the center.
Correct.
Yes.
So Lot A is all that.
Well, it will be Lot A when you agree that they can remove that boundary.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to ask this. There's no way to know what it was or what it's gonna be, according, you know what I mean?
You just got to squint, that's all.
Okay.
So
So
if
help me
you,
out.
yeah, so if you look on your map, basically you see an outline of the house,
Yep.
and then there's a lot line that goes right down the middle here, or right along the side of the house.
Okay.
That lot line is being removed.
It actually says original.
Oh, now I can read it on there.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't read it on our iPads.
I make sure I always have my readers when I'm looking at
It's
these.
too small.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
impossible.
it's very
Here,
small.
Chad, give in.
When you blow it up,
There you
when
go.
you blow it up, it distorts the letters.
I haven't accepted those yet. but-
You will.
Thank you. I was just.
You will.
Oh, I have. I do, but, okay.
That makes sense. That's what I thought it was.
Any discussion, guys? Let's vote, Sherry, please.
An ordinance approving a boundary adjustment for J.F. Cruel's subdivision Plat 2 in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Hydrich.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 7I passes. Jay, please.
An ordinance approving a boundary adjustment for the Bluffs at South Point in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Bear.
Introduced by Bear.
Okay, so a boundary adjustment, as you can see, it's a re-subdivision of Phoenix Center 2, Plat 10, Lot 8A, 8B, and 8C. There is no new lots, it's just the lines are going to be shifting to 8B. You can see, well, not on here, but previously was kind of a weird shape, and they're trying to even out that parcel. And then there is a access easement there for Lot 8C between 8A and 8B. Zoning is C2 for all those lots.
That easement was currently not there.
No, was not there.
And Lot 1 is also, well, what shows as Lot 1 on your Exhibit A, which is shown as 8A on there, that is a larger lot as well. That was taken out of the larger piece of the property.
So further to the west or northwest is not plotted yet, is that what you're? Is that-
No, it all is platted. You're gonna
That's
have.
Lot 3?
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, that all remains one lot there?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, correct.
And potential to be divided later.
Could be.
But, so where does 8C go to?
8C goes to, you can see the hard line. I can give you a.
It's all of Lot 1.
This, I'll show you up here, Joe. That lot line kind of went like this, went at an they're just evening this out. If you can see it, it follows all the rest of the lot
Right.
lines that are facing South Point Road, so it goes all the way out. So that lot line originally was like this, that's the lot that they purchased from the city.
Right.
We had, I think, 2.08 acres that we sold him, and now you can see it's up to 2.71 with this change. And then up there at 8A, there's a lot line that went at a diagonal as well, but this one increased lot 1 to 3 acres.
Okay, so now my question is, where's lot 8C?
Right here. This whole big.
So lot
That's
3
all-
and
24
8, so
acres.
3
That's right.
and 8C are the same thing?
Same
Exactly.
thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's where that was my question.
Yep.
That didn't make, C needed to have a boundary around it in order for it to be its own.
Yep.
So it's A, B, and C is the entire.
Right, you started with 3 lots, and you're gonna finish with 3 lots.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for.
It's okay. And as well as the easement is also included in this. That's the other change. That easement that goes between 8A and 8B, that was not there before.
So does that solidify that there'll be a road there, or not
It
necessarily?
could be, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
would
it almost
assume
has to be in order-
Right, it was put there for a reason. I think they're using it for easier access off of South Point Road, because if you try to go up down there, you get the grade issues.
Sure. Okay.
Other questions or discussions? Go ahead.
An ordinance approving a boundary adjustment for the Bluffs at South Point in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Hydrich.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 7J passes. K, please.
A resolution authorizing the city of Washington, Missouri to apply for funding through the Franklin County Transportation Committee for the Earth Crest Drive roadway extension project in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Bear.
Introduced by Bear.
It's a resolution, so we can apply for the annual Franklin County Transportation Grant. We're going to be asking for $100,000 for the project that is the bridge portion of the connection between Rabbit Trail and North Crest Drive.
My apologies, just a resolution. You didn't need me.
I'll second your motion.
Thank you.
Okay. We need now Sherry to read it again and vote?
No. Nope. Just all in favor, say aye.
Okay. All right, so Bear was the made the
Made the
resolution,
motion.
second by Jeff. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the resolution is passed.
If I can at this time, since that is going towards relief of eventually Rabbit Trail to the north, wanted to go ahead and bring that up to your attention as well, too, at this time. So Charles and I met, as well as Andrea, and I think Sarah or whatever, we went and met with East West Gateway. If you all remember, we had a CMAQ application that was at the intersection of Rabbit Trail Drive and Highway 100 that was awarded to us last year. And we had to get moving forward. The next big hurdle with that was, not a hurdle, but I mean the next step, I should say, was to issue a contract with the design engineering firm. Due to the fact that we would have an excessive amount that we would have to buy out in right-of-way for that project to go ahead and work, and the possibility that that might carve up that lot worse than maybe what the owner probably wants, and at least that's what they've reflected to us in all of our discussions with them. We went back to East West Gateway and asked them to see if we could do a scope change or what they would recommend if we wanted to go ahead and do that. Luckily, they gave us a approval already for a scope change that basically, the good news is that everything that was being proposed south of the Highway 100 would be removed, but you wouldn't lose the improvements that were proposed on the north side.
Really?
Correct.
Wow.
So that's what we said. So you'll have a dedicated right turn lane that would go out for westbound onto 100 right there. As you know, there's a mess of utilities at that intersection. So we've talked, maybe we'll have the consulting engineer, but in the near future, Charles is probably going to have you a engineering contract to go ahead and move forward with that portion of those improvements. That significantly decreases that grant down to $700,000 approximately, where it was before was actually, and I apologize, at one point I think we might have told you 1.5. It was actually 2.3 million. But But like I said, the bulk of that was everything that we needed on the south side. So just wanted to give you an update because these two projects kind of combined. We explained them that that was also a project that we were doing to mitigate that problem up there at that intersection.
Okay. 7L, please.
A resolution supporting the adoption of the City of Washington, Missouri Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, so last Monday night on the Planning and Zoning Commission's agenda, and I'll remind the council the same thing what we talked about with the Planning and Zoning Commission last week. This is the one time where they actually they're not a recommending body, they are the body that adopts the comprehensive plan on behalf of the city. That's their one task that they have where they're not making a recommendation to you, they actually adopt the plan for the city after they go through, obviously, all of these meetings and hearings that we're going to be talking about. So we had the meeting last Monday. They did adopt the plan, so the plan is adopted. Historically, we would come back to you as a council just to make sure that you would have a recommendation of support, but technically, the plan is already adopted by the city. I just want you to be aware of that before we start into this.
There's no changes to be made at this point.
Not without going back to planning and zoning making recommended changes. So that's kind of, I mean, that's the procedure for it. Just want to be clear on that. So we did receive some comments as we were getting towards the latter stages of adoption of the plan or getting closer to the final public hearing. And one of them was, well, let me back up because Sarah's got some of these slides. I just want you to kind of go through. I'm going to take off my cheaters now so I can read this. But you had stakeholder focus groups. We had 3 total of meetings. That's where we invited groups from the community, stakeholders to assess the current comprehensive plan, identify issues and opportunities. You also had a business owners roundtable. You had 2 of those types of meetings that we had. We had a project steering committee, community meetings, and we had 5 total of those for public input throughout that. We had public workshops. We had 3 citywide public forums. A couple of those, I think, were held out at the auditorium. And then you also had an online comprehensive plan survey where we had 394 total survey responses, of which 343 were actual Washington residents. So you did have some good participation from the general public on all phases of this. So if we can go to the next one. There's some key community priorities that I can tell you about. The workforce development was one of the topics, housing diversity and affordability, road improvements and congestion mitigation, Fifth Street corridor enhancement, downtown Washington and riverfront development, job-based diversification, parks, trails, and recreation amenities, the East-West Parkway, continuation of that, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, effective implementation as well as how do we go ahead and implement all phases of this with our departments. So you had several goals that were derived out of this process. And by the way, we told the gentleman with H3 Studio that we could go ahead and make this presentation to you since it was a resolution of support. We didn't see a reason to go ahead and continue with him to go ahead and provide this again. Goal, you have community history and regional distinction, economic diversity and amplification. Another goal is downtown expansion and enhancement. Another goal is housing development and diversification, transportation and infrastructure, natural resources, park and recreation, and governmental progress. And beneath those, you can read each one of those goals. I won't bother you to go through all of those. I think most of you participated in the comprehensive plan meetings that we had, so you saw these already before. So you also have a future land use plan that basically, as you guys know, we use this a lot of times with regards to, especially when we receive voluntary annexation requests for property that's outside the city limits, when in those instances they've sold it to a developer and the developer wants to come into the city limits, whether it be for residential. Most of the time, that's what you see is voluntary annexation on those residential developments, but occasionally you do get it for commercial and or industrial type usage. There's a lot of different land use types that are listed in there. It's not just 3 main categories. You've got some mixed use, you've got downtown district, 2 different kinds of residential for single family, low density and high density. Trying to think of some of the others. Civic and institutional use, got an airport district, and then you've also got park and recreation areas. I'm not listing all of those. One of the things, though, that we did here within probably the last 2 to 3 weeks before we had the public hearing in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and if you can highlight that area, Sarah. Basically, we did have one of the previous maps that the consultant had on there showed industrial zoning south of KK, and Sarah's going to go ahead and show you that area. But basically, it went down a lot further south along Mueller Lane, find it? There you go. Keep going down. There you go. This whole area down here was all proposed for industrial use. As you all know, in working with the 353 Redevelopment Corporation, that was never their intent to go ahead. They did not propose that. That was just the consultant put that on the map until somebody told them take it off. And 3 weeks ago, we told them take it off. Because basically, in talking with 353 Redevelopment Corporation, they have no intentions of doing industrial type use south of KK. You have residential homes down there. You've got a lot of, you got some development that's occurred already. That's not an area that they want to go ahead and purchase to go ahead and turn into industrial. That's not the intent. So we removed that and took that off of the map. And that was based on comments that we had received from a couple residents on Mueller Lane that had requested, why is that on there? And so once we cleared that up, the maps changed, and that was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. You want to go to the next one? So the next one is crucial too, because as you all know, this is our streets and roads plan that we use for whenever we have development. And again, these roads, especially those that do not exist right now, they're only needed when development occurs in those areas. So if development doesn't occur, we don't magically go out there and start buying right-of-way and start doing the construction of the roadway. We only do that when those farms or that area does get developed and the developer comes to us and wants to do it. And I give you the classic example is what you guys as a council have witnessed within the last year, which was the first phase of how many feet we did off of Beaker Road down there for that first phase. The developer came in, he had purchased the rest of the Coke farm and wanted to go ahead and try to extend single-family residential in that area. And we said, hey, wait a second, we've got our roadway planned in this area, you're right in that area, how can we go ahead and work with you? They stopped, came back to us, revised their plans, their development plans, came back to the city, and then we went and presented that information to you to say, how do you want to go ahead and work with this developer to see that this roadway becomes reality? And what we did, as you all know, is purchase the land that we needed to go ahead and get the right-of-way, as well as partner with them for construction of the roadway itself, which is what you see down there off of Beaker Road for so many feet going to the east towards South Point Road. And again, that came up as a result of development that occurred there, voluntary annexation, them wanting our utilities and wanting to go ahead and develop the land. So one of the things that you see on the map is that an extension of future possible areas of the East-West Parkway roadway, either going to the east towards Highway 100 from South Point Road, which was not given I guess a more intense design, if you will. So somewhere back in the late 90s, from Pottery, or basically Highway A, going east all the way to South Point Road, the city contracted with a design firm to go ahead and come up with an 80-foot wide corridor where it would be located specifically, trying to look at grades and to see if it was possible at those locations to make sure that it didn't exceed like a 10% grade or even 7% ideally. And so they went to an intensive study. The rest of the areas, it was just a line on a map. That's just an area to say, hey, the city wants some type of roadway to connect, and we'll work with the developer when that comes. That first line on the map was created back in 1984. That's how the East-West Parkway started. That's how long ago, and it's taken us 39 years before we actually took action, in a sense, to go ahead and develop a small portion of it. And again, the reason why was because the development finally got there. And so that's how the city has managed it. They've always thrown out a line on a map to try to see how are we going to go ahead and connect this as these areas develop. Most of you know from some of the plats and the voluntary annexations that have come before you since you've been on the council, a lot of it is in the southeast part of the city. We have not had an extensive amount out in the west. As a matter of fact, I would say most of what we've had out in the west is due to 353 and the purchase of the Waterman Farm to go ahead and establish the Oldenburg Industrial Park. That's the only example that you really have going west. Most of the time, it's been the residential development has occurred in the southeast area of the city. So we addressed this with the, is there another slide on there?
It's just the other maps.
Okay. But these are the two main issues. This also came up. We had probably 9 people sign up to go ahead and speak to the Planning and Zoning Commission that night. There were some options that the Planning and Zoning Commission had that could keep the maps as is and just say, hey, it's just a planning device that we need to go ahead and have for the city as those areas grow. Or they could have removed those areas, or they could have removed that portion off the map. And after a lot of discussion, they decided to go ahead and keep the maps, especially with what the map that you're looking in front of you, the streets and roads plan, to keep that in the plan. So they adopted it with it as is, what you see right here. So again, tonight, the reason the resolution is before you as a council is historically we would go back to the city council and ask for a resolution of support, just showing that, hey, yes, we agree with the process that we went through to get to this point. We agree with, and it's not like it's intended that you have to agree 100% with everything that's said in it, because it's a big document. There's a lot to cover in it. But the Planning and Zoning Commission did adopt that plan last Monday night, and so we're here before you, just like we have been at least the last 2 times we've had comprehensive plans, and get a resolution of your support.
I think this is another example of where H3 kind of listened to you a little bit too, because we're talking about, East-West Parkway was how many years ago? I was going to say 40.
40 years ago.
But some of the roads in blue on this particular map weren't even on what they came back with as
Right.
one of the meetings, and we had a couple
Right.
people come up and say, well, what happened to what we're going to do with that? And they
Yeah.
said, oh yeah, we got to add those back in.
Right. Yeah, so Sarah can highlight the general area. It's basically within what we always still refer to as the bowl, which is south of 100, east of Pottery Road, and west of Highway A. So you've got some connections that we're still looking at for those. And within that area, we've seen too the extension of High Street continuing south as that development occurs. And we still anticipate another portion of it, and I believe you're going to have on your agenda in the future to go ahead. As a matter of fact, most of you probably don't remember that the city, in working with the Jasper Farm years ago, worked with them to obtain a 400-foot wide roaming easement of where High Street would continue south. Well, today we know where High Street has gone. I mean, it's platted, it's there, it's been built, it's been constructed, and it's now still something that they're going to request to go ahead and have that removed. We don't need it anymore. It was only there at the time because nobody knew exactly where High Street would be constructed. So that request, I believe, is supposed to come before them, I guess, at a future meeting to go ahead and remove that easement. And the other thing I'll stress that I mentioned the other night at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting was the city did fight to keep that on the map. We did have a lawsuit with property owners, especially in those areas that were east of Highway A going over to South Point Road. And basically the city did fight to go ahead and keep that on there, and the judge basically told us as long as the roadways that you're planning for lead to and from the city limits, you're allowed to go ahead and do so. The city's allowed to go ahead and create a comprehensive plan to deal with that development as it occurs. So, like I said, at that time, what happened was rather than stop it at Highway A, it continued to go further north up into the extension of High Street to the south and basically out where, at that time, where the city limits was at Highway 100. So. And the other thing is, this is not a public hearing. It's up to you guys if you want to take comments. I know there's some people out from that general area, but it's not a public hearing. I just want to make sure that you're aware of that because we didn't list it, advise, because we're not required to. We did that at the Planning and Zoning Commission, because that's where truly the public hearing is, where they adopt the comprehensive plan. Did I miss anything, Mark?
Okay. Are you guys okay with taking public comments?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Folks, again, you're welcome to come up, state your name, your address. I would ask you to keep it as short as possible, please. So, who would like to come up and speak? Doug?
Once again, I'm Doug Blankamp. I live at 112 Country Ridge Lane. I'm on the Mueller Lane corridor. I understand that you've taken all the industrial area off of the drawings and everything, but Mueller Lane itself has not been removed. Is that correct?
Well, Mueller Lane, excuse me, exists as public right-of-way. The red line that you see there would utilize portions of Mueller Lane for the East-West Parkway roadway if it were to be extended there.
Okay. So is Mueller Lane going to be considered an industrial route?
No.
What would it be considered?
It would just be probably considered a major roadway, just like Fifth Street, just like South Point Road, Beaker Road. There's functional classifications where then the city can go ahead and receive federal assistance in the future if they want to go ahead and make improvements.
Well, and just the East-West Parkway, our intentions are, and we've done it now for Beaker Road, where there'll be no driveways off of that, but instead streets off of that to cul-de-sacs, et cetera.
Right, to minimize that effect of, and that's why we enter into development agreements with the developers in those situations so we can control that.
So it is a little different than just, no, sorry, just that's, it's a little different than just having a subdivision street. The East-West Parkway is made not to have driveways off of it, and therefore.
Limited access.
Limited access, there you go, right.
So could it, if this plan ever evolved, could it be that it would not be a truck route?
Yes.
Should wait.
Yes, it could be. I mean, that's up to the city to consider that. I will tell you, with regards to truck routes, our truck routes are very limited. Most of them are on the Highway 100 and 47, all of the state-maintained routes. The only exception, I would say, is East Fifth Street from 100 going up to 47. That portion of Fifth Street is considered a truck route as well. And trucks are allowed, that doesn't mean that trucks have to drive. Trucks have to go where they have to deliver their goods, obviously. But basically, you can't be, that just says that if we do have it as a truck route and we start seeing extensive amount of trucks on a street trying to circumvent the truck routes that we do have in place, then we can go ahead and issue tickets.
Okay, thank you.
So you're looking potentially at 40 to 50 years before, who knows?
Yes, I mean, it could, I'd hate to put a number on it other than to say, because that would assume that, you know, you're gonna see development all the way out into that area at that time. That's why I said, in 1984, that line was put on the map for planning purposes for the city. They took it a step further in the late 90s because they were really concerned. They started to see a lot of development south of 100, and they thought that we need to go ahead and have a better design of where this roadway needs to be. And so they did that. I want to say it was like late 90s when the study was done, and then I think we defended it in court, I think in the early 2000s, shortly after that, or a few years after that. But basically, the development, I mean, it's not a necessary road to be built until the development gets there. And to answer your question with regards historically, all I can tell you is that, yes, this line was first put on the map in 1984, and here you're looking at 2024 before you finally saw a small portion of it built out there off of Beaker Road.
Darren, wasn't the East-West Parkway originally quite a bit farther north than what it is now? I thought it was Studerman Road even. Somewhere in that area.
I'd have to pull up.
Eventually moved
Yeah.
further south.
I don't know the answer to
Further
that.
south than Steuben Road.
Yeah, it wasn't where it is now.
Correct.
It moved.
I think in the original, I'd have to go back to that map from 1984. I do know that in the late 90s, when they did the more extensive study of where to put it, that's when it actually said, no, it's going to cross this property, that property, and here's how we can go ahead and do it and maintain a grade that'll work for the city.
Well, 10 years ago, or 11 years ago, whatever it was High Street and turned to Chamber Drive and Chamber Drive to 47, so it was just
right
to the south of Studeman Road, if my memory serves correctly. And to Darren's point too, the Mueller Lane Avenue, and I know I sat in the planning and zoning meeting last week to listen to what you guys had to say. It's only going to happen if development happens there. And if that development happens, someone's got to put a bridge over St. John's Creek.
Yeah.
In order to do that. So it's not that the city is ready to go there and build houses on next to your, next to the farm. It's just that plan. And as long as I'm sitting here, we're not going to put intersections where things curve and go down. The road's going to go straight through, and we're going to have a limited access highway. Again, people made a comment to me last week, well, you're not going to sit here forever. I agree with that, a different council. But as we make a plan and a plan to move forward, not that that's etched in stone and where it has to be, the little short section of East-West Parkway now was changed. We moved it so we didn't have to go over top of the mountain. We went around it, and that was just a year ago as we started. So as long as I sit here, common sense prevails, and we make that road, first we get from 47 east. Yeah. And then we go Highway A east. Yes. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. We're a long ways, to your point, Mr. Coulter, about being on Mueller Lane, about being west of High Street, west of Pottery Road at this point. We don't even have Highway 100 paved 4 lanes past Pottery Road at this point. That comes first in my book. So,
and that's identified in this plan.
Right.
I mean, that all those priorities are identified that way.
And I told a lot of members of Mueller Lane, I put you guys all in the same boat here last week, that, if I lived out there, I'm in the same boat. I'm sitting with you saying I don't want that to be a thoroughfare through my farm. I agree with you 100%. But one gentleman who lived on Beaker Road 3 years ago told me, don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. And now he wants more because his land's worth more. So when it sells, the developers are going to make more, and it's going to make
That's when
that
the
happen.
city has to be prepared to go ahead and
Right.
deal with that.
And that's the only prepared we have to be. So if you're not going to sell and it stays and everyone's joined, it's not an issue. And that's really where it's handles. But someone asked me too, well, then why don't you take it off? Why don't you take it off completely? If it's not going to be done in 20 years, take it off. Because the city has to have that plan moving forward, okay? That third-party person, Tim, who's been here for 2 years doing this, he doesn't draw a line through a family farm because he thinks that's just mean. We can't go to Wentzville and draw a line because we don't know where those property lines are either. And that's what only thing I'd stand up for him is, it's a third party for a reason, because this is what best suits without having personal vendettas, taken into part. So I just want to reiterate again, we're not going after Mueller Lane. I'm not sitting up here doing that. It's just a plan, because when we go for grants and highway transportation funds and things like that, we have to have this plan in place as a city, not to take over and develop what we don't already need. So, again, thank you.
Jeff, I like your point about we're not going to be here forever. Because it's true. Right. None of us were around, at least involved in city government 40 years ago when the first part of the parkway was planned. For me as a mayor of 2 years, a lot of the early discussions, and even today, one of the things that Darren and the economic director and the city manager, or pardon me, the engineer, they asked the question, does this comply with our comp plan? And I thought, golly, it's that important. And it is, but it is also a living, breathing document. And to Jeff's point that we're not going to be here anymore, it did a heck of a lot for me in my learning process. And these guys may not be here in a year or 2 or 10 years from now. Those new councilmen and the next mayor, they're going to have to be able to refer to a document that's well thought out, that has taken over a year to develop with lots of public input, and to me, it's invaluable. And thank God I'm with a city that does do plans like this. More questions, more comments, please.
Savannah Rice Place. So if I understand correctly, You had said that this was reviewed, and it implied it was current. And if the Mueller Lane would have been looked at with all the development since you originally laid this out, I don't understand why it could still be on the plan, as opposed to there are areas right next to us that meet cross sections, 4 Mile Road, North 4 Mile Road. All that is not as populated. It's not subdivided like ours.
And that's the flexibility of it. It could move easily within it. Like we talked about earlier with High Street, years ago when the Jasper Farm was looking to go ahead, they knew that they were probably going to sell at some point. They knew that they wanted, that the city was wanting a roadway that they could continue further south, just like we're seeing High Street now. And at that time, there was a 400-foot roaming easement that they granted, and we said, perfect, this helps us go ahead as we work with developers. And it was just another step that when those areas would be developed. It all depends on who comes to us from what angle, what farm, where they're at, whether or not that line stays current. And I will tell you that, like what Mark had alluded to earlier, the 84 plan probably had that map or that line at a much different location, but it just showed east-west, some type of connection.
Yeah, I did a lot of homework. That 2001 is when the Coke Farm, all that was decided, that you guys did have the right, because you had a relationship, like a commitment, whatever, with the county. So that allowed you to proceed even though they were outside the city limits?
Well, and just to clarify for that, because I think I know what you're asking about. Yes, we had an agreement with the county that they would, and it really wasn't that special of an agreement, shall I say, because by law, the county has to go ahead and submit any subdivisions or any rezonings or any land use change essentially within 1.5 miles of city limits. They turn that over to us to get our comments or our input on that because they know that we have plans like this. That's how it's supposed to be done. But I will tell you, our comments don't always bode well, or at least they don't always come into play with the thing. But at least what it does is it gives the city notice, hey, wait a second, this is where this development is going. That's when I go to the council and say, we put up or shut up. Are we interested in getting this? How do we go ahead and achieve that right away? And I will tell you, the first phase of that right away that just got built here within the last year, that was purchased by the city. And it was at the fair market value of what the developer paid for the property. So that's, again, like Doug and Jeff have said, that could easily be a future council to go ahead and make those decisions as that development occurs.
Okay, thanks.
Other folks?
Hi, I'm Jim Turner, and I live off Mueller Lane. The two things that I would comment about this is, one, that it makes no sense to me, if we're looking at an east-west parkway, that it stops short of the industrial park. It only makes sense if it goes past that, so that it drains that as well. The second is, it ends right on, as it is now, on KK, which, for those of us, I'm not a city planner, I've never done that. I'm not a road engineer, I've never done that. But my particular expertise is 20 years of dodging cars at the KK and Mueller Lane intersection, which is a death-defying sort of act on a regular basis. The traffic speeds there are often 65 more miles per hour, and it's curvy, and it's not well designed as it is. So dumping a parkway traffic onto that area seems ill-advised in any circumstance. So I think that in addition to the life-changing impact of turning Mueller Lane into a thoroughfare, for those of us who live there, there's the public safety issue of this dog don't hunt. It's not a good plan. It's dangerous as done there. So if this is a 40-year-old plan, you didn't know 40 years ago what that was going to look like, but knowing what it looks like today, dumping an east-west parkway onto KK is dangerous.
And I agree with that completely, in the sense of that's the reason why you put it on the map. is so that you can apply for federal funding. And I will tell you that if you get to the point where that roadway needs to be built up to KK, there's no doubt that this board right here will be working with the state to make improvements to Highway KK at that intersection all the way up to 100. That would probably include signalization up there at 100 and KK, widening, whatever it would take. And if you don't have it on the map, the issue is then the city can't apply for the federal assistance to go ahead and make those improvements happen.
Understood, understood.
Thank you. Other comments, folks? Okay, I'll take a motion, folks.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Briggs,
Second.
second by Patke. Further discussion?
I just want to say, the planning and zoning commissioners, I know Mike Wood made the comment that it's a living, breathing document. It's amendable. It's that kind of thing. So as something comes, as a better option happens and all that kind of things in the future, whether that be a year from now, whether that be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, again, like I said, common sense prevails. We make the right decision there. It's on the map for a purpose, but it's amendable to make more sense at the time. So, and I think the planning and zoning, I think that held weight with those guys, that it's on here for a reason, but it's amendable at the time to make the right access points, the right thoroughfare points, et cetera. So, and again, I know it's controversial, but thank you to planning and zoning for months of meetings and subcommittee meetings and et cetera to make it happen and do it right. So, thanks.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, you guys. Any further discussion?
Get a motion and a second.
And a second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Report of department heads, e-scooters.
So we did move, Jesse's here. I think he would like to give you a presentation just as a background before he gets to his slides, to let you know that some of you have asked questions with regards to the current. I think Jesse's already renting some out of his own property, which by code he can go ahead and do so. I mean, it's zone commercial. You can go ahead and utilize that. What makes, I think, what he's going to ask for you tonight is to possibly enter into an agreement similar to what you had with Lime Scooters, where they are the sole provider for that in the future, as well as to use public locations for the storage of those devices, just like Lime did. He is operating now based on, like I said, everything. Scooters, for example, are completely legal to drive down our city streets, just like any other bikes, whatever other vehicles you may use. But everything goes back to his location. And, if there would be a problem that we needed to have them removed from public property, we would call him or figure out a way to go ahead and do that. But I think what he's going to show you, this did go before Traffic Committee back in, it looks like earlier this month on May 3rd, on Friday. And so you've got a long letter from Sergeant Grissom talking about it. And with that said, I'll turn it over to Jesse if he wants to go ahead and do his presentation.
Thank you. Mainly, I just wanted to counter any objections you had. There's a lot of differences between Lime scooters and Levy scooters that were handled out with the traffic committee, and it was pushed up unimposed with the same restrictions that Lime does. Currently, we're operating 12 scooters outside of the Sandbar commercial property. Got 10 more coming in the next few days. Haven't had any issues with any destruction of property locally. There was one report of a burnout. The difference between Lime scooters and Levy scooters is that we're going to maintain the area. So we're going to take care of all the burnouts, any kind of vandalism, things like that, we will handle locally. So one of the main concerns was the Lime person wasn't here. They weren't local. They weren't taking care of anything because they don't live here. We don't have that problem. These will maintain charges and maintain in good condition because it is local. So I'm seeking a 3-year contract for use of public land to park the scooters on, as well as and/or the sole contract for scooters. And then after the first year, the idea is to do a charging station. That is a unique concept opposed from the Lime. So then they would just be essentially parked right back inside the charging station. It would charge itself.
So to your point that no vandalism, Sarah, can you pull up those pictures that we've had at Farmers Market?
That was the one incident I was talking about with the burnout in the bathroom, is what I was told about during the traffic
Okay.
committee.
Right, and Sergeant Grissom said there was a way that you could find out who did that at the time, and can we use that information?
Yes.
Know who it was to find who did it?
If it was one of these scooters, all rides are tracked from the start point to where they go to the time frame. It's got their username on file, it's got their credit card information on file, everything. So it's very easy to determine that. And I know with Lime that you guys had access to that same information, so you would have the same information here. You'd be able to track all the same information. So you wouldn't need to go through me, but that would be an option as well.
You wouldn't need to go through you, that information would be for the police department to use, is that right?
That, or whoever the city administrator is for that, the same, because you guys had access to Lime's data for the scooter. So it'd be the same concept. You could have access to that.
Someone had Lime's data that knew where they were?
I think we could ask them, I mean, we asked them, as you'll recall, along the way to go ahead and put further and further restrictions to go ahead. I don't ever recall we had a situation where we went to them and said, who is riding in at this location on this date and time?
But this is a farmer's market bathroom, right, Wayne? This is where this is located. So this is what we were taught. So in parks, this is what we get shown, and then we have to take the floor down and re-epoxy and whatever. So it's not just fix a burnout. And then this is outside of there.
We get a lot of sidewalk art.
Right.
Yeah. It's usually the same
And then
artist.
one of them's a complete donut.
Not the same artist, the same picture.
Yeah.
Yes, we'd be able to determine if anybody even rode in that area and around what time. I don't know the physics behind being able to do burnout because I ride the scooters myself. It's, so far I found it impossible because you cannot start it from a standing position, so you already have to be going in order to, and you're not doing burnouts on it. So I could bring one in, but I don't see how it's possible because it's a push start.
Push, oh, you mean you have to push?
You have to start it, or keep going like a regular scooter, and then the accelerator will kick in.
I can tell you one thing I saw a lot of living on the riverfront and having those right across from me when Lime had them. Mom and Dad would come in with 12-year-old, and they'd get them all set up on the scooter with the ID and the credit card, and off they go. How do you know if it's a 12-year-old or the person that actually says they're riding it?
Yes. So on in the app, there is a waiver, hold harmless agreement, that essentially any person that signs up or swipes the card is the one responsible for it. So if a parent does do that, they are fully responsible for the child. There's no way to prevent.
I get it, but it
no way to
happens
prevent it.
all the time.
Yes.
And, living on Front Street, I have to walk out my first couple steps and see who's riding down the sidewalk, because my dogs and I got pretty close calls several times. And, how do you police that?
Police them riding on the sidewalks?
Yep.
Can't.
Yeah.
Now, they currently can ride anywhere. The restriction would be the approval, because I'm not only just trying to get Front Street, I'm trying to get elsewhere, away from the 21 up bar.
Yeah, and I have nothing against what you're trying to do. I'm just telling you what I saw in the past, and these are things that I am telling you about that I don't think you can fix.
Yes. Yeah, the sidewalk riding, the only thing you can mitigate with that is the speed control, which was one of the things that was the restrictions.
But how would it know if it's on the sidewalk or the street?
They won't.
Right.
And as far as picking them up, I mean, Lime promised they were going to have people do that all the time, and then it never happened. They got left everywhere.
Correct.
You're proposing that you're going to pick these up? Are they?
No, we will be using geofencing locations. I propose 4 separate locations. Essentially, when you start a ride, you have to end it at one of these locations. You cannot end the ride anywhere in town. So you're not going to see these scooters left on the sidewalk here, there, and there, like you did with Lime Scooter.
What if you do?
What they do?
I'm sorry?
What happens if they?
You can't. You'd be charged, you're constantly charged until you return it back.
So your card, whatever device you gave to go in and
Yes.
pay for it, is continually going to be charged until you bring it back. I guess that's,
So you
that's
can
the
leave it
deterrent,
somewhere.
right?
You're just going to continue to get charged for it.
Correct. Yeah.
And then they'll dispute the charge. But I don't know, I'm just not.
I've currently, it's been 3 months, I haven't had any issues with anybody not bringing it back, a single scooter. They're always constantly charged, and I've had no issues. And yes, there's been 16, 17, 18-year-olds riding them. I track the locations, I've seen them at the skate park, I've seen them all around Lions Lake, I've seen them down Riverfront, the trail, seen pictures of them everywhere, but they bring them back. And it does say at the beginning of the app, I did send a little presentation, or it shows you the step-by-step process of when you sign up. It's just even a little tutorial video on how to ride it, little kickstand, everything.
How many scooters are you?
Currently, I own 22,
And you want how many?
up to 50. I could take these 22 and put them and separate them. They don't need to be at the Sandbar location. Ideally, I want them away from that, is the goal. And I did misspeak a little bit on, in the traffic committee. If we limit one section to 10 p.m., then they all have to be limited. They all have to have the same time frame. So I can't, originally I wanted them longer in the park area and limited downtown. They would all be limited at the exact same time.
How critical is it that you have basically the sole contract to provide these? Because I'm not sure that we could do that. We didn't do that with Lime, and I'm not sure we could shut out other competitors.
Lime didn't have a sole contract?
No. I just looked at their contract, and there was nothing in there.
Not critical. Just ideally public space to park in.
Is that the key, is just having those
Yes.
places to return them back at public locations?
Correct.
That you can't do today. Now everything's got to leave your place and then come back to your place.
Yes.
Okay.
If Lime would come back and put parked right next to him, it wouldn't be an issue.
Mark, didn't we put something in the ordinance about riding on sidewalks?
Yeah, it's not
Well,
allowed.
yeah.
It's not
So if
allowed.
we do
but
see it,
I know.
Well, you changed that, I mean, that was a separate ordinance that you have in your traffic code. That was not, I mean, it prompted the discussion, don't get me wrong, but that's something that you addressed in your traffic code as far as ridership goes. If somebody's got a scooter, whether they rented it from Jesse, whether they rented it from Lime, whether they rent it, they still have to abide by our traffic laws. And so, but to answer your question, yes, they would have to sit there and call that into the police, and the police would have to go down there and find them and.
The other question I have for you is, the traffic committee's recommendation was that they not be operated along Fifth Street. But are you going to continue to rent them from the Sandbar? Because I don't know how you leave there unless you're leaving on Fifth Street.
Well, currently these are the privately owned ones. I would like to push them away from that area and not operate on Fifth Street, but currently, yes, they are operating on Fifth Street. But we're trying to get away from that. That's the end goal, is to push away from the bar, because I have noticed a lot of under 21 people riding them. So it'd be better if it was in a park location or downtown, away from the bars.
And part of, and I'm not trying to monopolize the conversation here, but the recommendation is, from the traffic committee, is nothing south of Highway 100. So how do you restrict them if they can go anywhere in the city but on Fifth Street? How do you prevent that?
Just the same way as Lime. The app, just if you imagine the map, you could just click, draw a box, make it red to no-go zone. So it would shut off essentially when you go into certain areas. Just like you can put a speed limit in certain areas, you could throttle the zone. So if you're on the Washington Trail, it'll automatically kick into 10 miles an hour per the Lime's restriction. So it's the same concept. It's all geolocation, geo-tracked. It's got a tracker built into it. And that's how you prevent that.
So if I'm crossing Fifth Street, it's not going to shut me down, but if I'm driving down Fifth Street, it's
There's
going
about
to
a
shut
3-second delay, so you have time to cross, and then it will shut off the scooter. So that way you're not riding on Fifth Street. You're just
How specific of an area can you shut down? Because I had a lot of them with Lime at first, and they were able to take care of the problem. They'd come up my driveway between the two buildings where it says no trespassing, and they would tool around back there and do their little art back there. So how specific can you be on where you can shut these things off? Can it be an area the size of this room, or?
Yeah, I have the parking pretty much currently set at the sandbar for a box about this right here. And
But I mean, if they pulled up in that driveway, it would shut off.
within a 3-second delay, yes. But then it'd still be in track. It would just essentially turn into a regular scooter. They'd still be getting charged. They would just have to kick push.
So they wouldn't be prevented from riding there, it's just that the
They
motors.
would cut power. They cut power. So it would just be a regular scooter. You wouldn't want to automatically kick in the brakes, because then that would be a safety hazard.
No, I understand that, but you could still operate the scooter, it's just, you're not gonna have the.
Yes.
Jesse, no requirements for helmets, is that correct?
I did consider helmets, and the issue with that would be sanitary restrictions. That would be a major concern.
I understand. For me, that's a not starter.
Yes.
Other questions, you guys, or discussion?
This is just a discussion item for tonight, and like I said, I don't know if you want to take in comments, that's fine. But I'm just letting you guys, I mean, this is just a discussion item for tonight. If you wanted to move this forward with anything, that's why we just left it as a discussion item. If you want to move forward or not move forward with it, you can give us guidance, and then we can look at the agreement that we once had with Lime and work with Mark's office to go ahead and get something.
I don't really want to vote on it tonight.
I agree.
I really don't want to vote on it tonight.
You don't have to.
No.
Just, but you got to give us.
I'm glad you're here explaining. You answered a lot of my questions.
Thank you, Jesse. Tony, do you have a comment?
You need to come up.
Yes, please.
It's recorded on tape.
Kevin, 522 West Front Street. My question is pertaining to festival zones. Do you have the ability to temporarily shut down a festival zone?
Yes.
So they're not zipping through the pedestrians?
Yes.
Perfect, that's all.
Good question. Further questions, you guys? So do we need to vote to move it on, or?
Just have a discussion, and then, if I don't, assume if we don't get a vote to move it on, we have another discussion at the next council meeting, and eventually get some direction as to if you want to move forward with it.
Okay.
What information outside of this would you be requesting at the next meeting? If not to vote on it today, what information would you need?
Well, I don't know. There's 3 councilmen not here. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I think there's feelings amongst us that, this is not an easy issue. And I think everybody'd feel more comfortable if all 8 of us were here. Would you guys agree with that, or am I wrong?
That, as well as, getting some other input.
Yep. Okay.
And I'll say this, I wasn't impressed by Lime when they came in and wanted to do it, and then when it still passed, regardless of the vote, or my vote, but then it just became a trash item in downtown. And then you just seen them everywhere, became more of a problem. When they pulled out, I was happy to see it gone. I seen them at the sandbar, and okay, someone else is trying, and more power to you, use them at your business. But due to the vandalism that I see through the Parks Department and just those safety issues, I don't have any other information or other questions. I'm just a no at this time because of that reason. So I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction, but that's just where I stand at this point, is just, so again, when you ask what other information, unless you can tell me they're gonna do something better for our town, then I'm just not for it at this time. So,
Yes.
Thank you.
With that vandalism, if there was a time frame or if there was no rides being ridden at that time, would that change your mind? If you could prove that that was not caused by one of our scooters based off the geolocation and the tracks and the time?
Well, I don't want to be, how do I want to say this? Scooter or not scooter, it's happening. And people tell you it's a scooter, and I'm being told by our parks workers that it is. So, proof against it, sure. But if we allow it and it happens again and again, it's just, there's too many opportunities for it. And then it's just, for me, I feel like our downtown is where you want to walk on the sidewalk.
I agree.
Walk the trail, not, intertwine with the scooters. I just think if you want to enjoy downtown Washington, it's not on a scooter, it's on a walking path, in my opinion. So it's just a little slower pace, and then to the point that it shuts off, and then you can still operate it like a kid scooter, kind of defeats the purpose of having them on or off Fifth Street too, for that matter. So anyway, again, nothing against you, nothing against what you're doing it there, but I think we're better off without. That's my opinion.
I understand.
Darren just brought up a good point. Jeff, you deserve an answer. And I just don't think we're prepared to give that to you tonight, but we need to do it quick unless.
We don't even have an ordinance drawn up.
No, you don't, you don't.
We can't act on it tonight.
Right.
That's correct.
That's the reason why we left it as a discussion item, so that it could be discussed. We wanted to go ahead and get it at the May 6th meeting, but we didn't get the information and couldn't go ahead and provide it at that time, so it was like, as soon as he had it and was readily, and then we had to go through traffic committee, we wanted to make sure that they reviewed it before it came to you.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't we bring it up again prior to the next meeting?
You can bring it up in the workshop if you want to on June 3rd.
Everybody okay with that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Mayor's report.
I've got nothing major, you guys. Darren's got some exciting news he's going to tell you. I'm really excited about it, too. We found an economic director. I don't want to take his thunder.
They're already doing it. Just go ahead. They already know. They got an email this morning. So no, I'm joking. Right? No, we're very excited to go ahead and announce that we've selected Aaron Griesheimer to serve as our new economic development director. Just so the council is aware of responsibilities with that. It's not in the same as what Sal was when he was there. He was more of a community and economic development director because he had a planning background like I did. And so he would sit there and assist Sarah and the engineering department with regards to it. This position is going to be more of just focused on economic development for the time being. Because when we took those responsibilities from Sal, if you'll remember, we shifted those to Sarah for her to go ahead and be your new city planner. And then Sal then took on the responsibilities of the bigger picture with regards to our airport and as far as those plans go. So right now, he's just going to be focused just so he can get his feet wet and get all his opportunities. He'll be just doing economic development and working with myself on those projects. But we're very excited. Aaron obviously knows the community. He served as a state rep for the community before. So we know that he's got already a good background of a network that he can go ahead and reach out and help. It's just a new network that he's going to be tapping into. So we're excited. He'll be starting June 17th. And then I do have a couple items quickly in executive session. Promise it won't be as long as the last one.
Council comments?
Anything, gang? Okay.
City's attorney's report. Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Bear?
Yes.
Going backwards. Sorry, I'm going to start over again. Hydrich?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Bear?
Yes again.
Coulter?
Yes.
Okay. Vote passes. We're in executive session. Thank you, everybody, for
Yes, if you
coming.
didn't hear me.
Ooh,